Okay, we're good to go.
Yay! Okay, let's start off with your name and occupation.
My name's Salvatore Paradise, and I'm a musician. So it all started with the card. So I wanted something that I really did create that I could sell that's physical. There's software out there that allows you to, like I was always getting into 3D modeling, right? I had been using this program called Blender, which is like a free open source 3D modeling software. Eventually, all these ideas kind of started coalescing in my head, and I started experimenting with Spark AR, which is basically it's software developed by Meta, Facebook, and it allows you to incorporate 3D models into Instagram filters. I started playing around with it, and the idea kind of became clear as I moved on. I wanted some object, like a picture or a card or something that I could sell, and it would lead to many things. So I wanted it to be a digital download card. I wanted it to be like somewhat interactive filter. I didn't know what, and then I wanted it to be like I initially wanted to play music, but unfortunately the capabilities of that are like they can't hold much file size, so music would just be too big for it. Long story short, I settled on the idea of like a plastic business card that would spawn a virtual track list. So the card itself just has the title on the front. On the back, there's a QR code. You scan the QR code, it goes to my website. So once you're on the website, you can actually download Force Majeure, the digital download, and it has one bonus track. So that's the other thing about it. It's like you have that exclusivity to it. So that's the only way you can actually listen to that recorded track ever. It's not going to be on streaming services. It's just an exclusive to that card. So you purchase the card, you get an exclusive bonus track. It's like purchasing a digital download card, but the advantage of this is you get the whole filter aspect too, which you can share. So the filter itself is an interactive track list. So once you go to the website, click the link and it takes you to Instagram. It spawns the filter, and the filter is dependent on the image on the card. So it'll ask you to find the card. Obviously, if you don't have the card, you can't use the filter. So put the card in view, and then all of a sudden a track list comes out the side. You can click on each track, and it'll have like on the card, a little blurb will pop up about it, explaining kind of like liner notes, like a little bit behind the song with credits and everything. And also on the card, there's a lock that pops up, lock icon. If you click that, you get the password to get the actual download. The download, what you get on my website is an encrypted zip file. And to decrypt it, you need the password. So the password's in the actual filter. Mm-hmm. So it's like all tied together. You kind of like need everything for it to work, but it was a lot of work, like getting it to work, but I'm glad I did it because like it feels good completing something instead of giving up on it, you know. A lot of this stuff I'm learning from kind of scratch. All that AR stuff I was learning from kind of the ground up. So it was very difficult because I would just keep hitting roadblocks. And to be honest with you, I was like really close to like switching the idea or giving up on an idea. But eventually I figured it out. It was a lot of work, and I did some unorthodox things because exactly what I wanted to do was like not common with that software. So I had to, hack it a bit and figure out some workarounds, but it took a lot of my time, like an excessive amount of my time. From concept, the actual exhibit, from concept to actual reality is over a year for sure. The original idea I had for the card was to spawn something like a world, like like not necessarily an exhibit, but a virtual world, right? That you can explore into. And I was like, okay, this actually I can actually tag back to that original idea that I had to throw out because of the card. And I was like, this can actually be like, I can actually fully fulfill the idea that I had in the beginning. And then that's where the exhibit idea came in. And then from there, I was like, well, what does an exhibit have? Okay, well, it has images, but it also has like, I wanted to put something interactive to it. So that's where the filters on the wall came in. So they're more like interactive art pieces. And then the exhibit itself was the fully virtual spectacle. I think the concept was first, Coming into the exhibit, I wanted it to be very minimal, and I wanted it to be mostly about using your phone as a tool to access everything. So at Capsule here, we had on that far wall there, we had 3 posters with QR codes on them, and those QR codes corresponded to what I called like the kind of like the simple filters, which were like embedded filters within the exhibit. So each poster, like I said, had a QR code, and that QR code would then link to an Instagram filter that corresponded to each poster. And the poster had the title of the filter and it had a brief description on it. And so the first one was like a drum pad. So you'd come in, you'd scan the QR code. Instagram opens on your phone with that filter. Basically, it's 6 pads, like an MPC or a drum pad, and then each one has a different sound on it: hi-hat, snare, kick, and you tap it, and it's just like a drum pad. You can make beats on it. So that was the first one. The second one in the middle was a photo booth. So I wanted with the exhibit, I wanted also it to be like something shareable and something of an experience. And I thought, like, when you go to events and stuff, there's always some sort of photo opportunity, right? And something that people could share that also promoted the actual exhibit. So it's a simple filter. Basically, it's just like a solid blue overlay with text, and in the middle there's a cutout so you can see yourself, and it has the name of the exhibit and my name on it. And so the goal with that, it was people can show that they attended the exhibit, they were there, and they can promote it on social. And then the third one was one that I made like right before the exhibit, the week of the exhibit, was particle sculpting. It was actually my favorite one. So basically how it worked was the software I use has this feature in it called particle generation. So it's used for a lot of the time, it's used for like making things like snow and stuff, or like rain. So you generate particles and you can control their direction and how fast they travel and where they travel in space and how big they are and the shape and the color. So a lot of it, like for snow, you'd make it come from the sky and you'd make a bunch, and they would all come down randomly and they would all fall in a direction, and they'd probably be white, and then they'd eventually fade away when they hit the ground. But for this, I made it so the particles generate when you put your finger on the screen. Then they generate constantly, and they fade away after 10 seconds. So you put your finger on the screen and you actually move the phone, the particles will generate, and you can kind of draw with them in real space. So you're generating these 3D spheres, and you can draw 3D shapes in real space by just moving around. And then you can take your finger off, it'll stop generating, and then you can actually physically like look back at the actual thing you created before it disappears. And then the exhibit, that was the tough one. So with that, I definitely wanted to do a 3D space, and the idea came in, okay, well, what if I just recreated Capsule? And I was like, okay, how am I gonna do this? Well, I have to measure Capsule first. So probably a month or 2 before the exhibit, I came in here in Capsule and I measured each wall. I measured the length of each wall and I measured the angle of each wall. And it's not just a square room, right? It's just like, it's mostly square, but there's also like these little cutouts on the walls. So I took a pretty detailed measurement of exactly how long it is. And then Blender, I recreated it in 3D, which is easier than it sounds. Like people think, oh, you're recreating a whole big space, but it's really just flat planes, right? So you put in the measurement, you put in the height. I don't think I made the height to scale because the ceiling was open, but yeah, so I measured it, put it together, and then I had that 3D object of Capsule, that 3D recreation. Then I could import it into Capsule and then decorate it in there. I wanted to like decorate it as if I was decorating this space. So I put, photos on the back wall. I put like a wooden table in virtual space, and it had like my virtual card rotating on it, and it had downsized model of Capsule, and and it was fully explorable. So the ultimate goal with that exhibit was to make virtual space within a physical space that you could access through your phone, and everything you would see through your phone, through Instagram. So tying it all together with free tools that everyone has. So everyone has Instagram and everyone has a phone pretty much. So it was accessible to everyone. And I do plan on making them, opening them up and making them public to everyone. So at any point, someone can just go to a large open space and access that filter and then explore that gallery anywhere. Anywhere.